Hey guys, what's going on? This is RJ from Game News USA here, and today we're going to count down my top 10 video game consoles of all time. Now, let me start off by saying, Xbox One, it's not on the list. Sorry, but I did want to throw an honorable mention in there, because you can play Series X games through the cloud. The Wii U didn't make the list. It's a game console that I actually very much enjoyed. I think it's very underrated. It just performed horribly. Also, we're not going to sit here and just count down the most successful as far as units sold. If you want to know that, you can find that on Google. I just want to talk about the video game consoles that I enjoyed the most and give you guys reasons why and some games why. And in the comments below, you can tell me your favorite video game console. So, with that being said, please remember to hit the subscribe button, and thank you for watching the video. So, we're kicking it off with the other 8th gen console that I didn't talk about. Number 10 on the list is PlayStation 4. Now, this console has a lot of PS5 games on it as well that still showed up. It had Spider-Man and God of War reboot, and it early on it established itself as a place where you want your digital library to be. It did a good job with being more backwards compatible with the PS1 and PS2, and the PS3 through the cloud. And so I look back fondly at the PS4 generation, and it sold terrifically well, over 100 million copies. So, with that being said, number 9 on the list is the PlayStation 2. So, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys, the PS3 didn't make the cut, because the PS3 was overpriced at launch. It got a bad rap its first few years, and it was mostly being compared to the success of the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 took everything the PS1 did, except made it better. It included a DVD player, which people were very excited to have. And it had Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It had many JRPGs that became fan favorites. Did you know, if you actually took the combined sales of the GameCube, the Xbox OG, and the Sega Dreamcast, added them all together and tripled it, the PS2 still had more sales. It was wildly popular. In fact, I didn't really play it very much. However, the time I did spend with it was very impactful. And I believe it is PlayStation's best console. That is number 9 on the list. Number 8, the original NES. How can it not be in the top 10? It literally spawned so many franchises we know today and love. Mario, Zelda, Mega Man, Castlevania. The list goes on and on. Metroid, Kid Icarus. And you know what? The games still hold up fairly well. As somebody who didn't grow up with the NES and had to play it later, I have to say, they hold up much better than like Atari games do. And I very much enjoy them. I think a game like Super Mario Bros. 3 is as good as almost any game that's ever been out. So, that's number 8 on my list. Number 7, the Sega Genesis. I can tell you right off the bat, this is the only Sega console that's going to make the list, and it's not a knock on Sega. I think the Dreamcast was nice. I enjoyed it. It was short-lived. I think the Sega Master System has its fans. The Sega Saturn, kind of a dud, ain't gonna lie. But the Sega Genesis had Altered Beast and Sonic and Streets of Rage and Shinobi, and it had, like, more violence and more gore in its ports from arcade games like Mortal Kombat. And so, I very much enjoyed the Sega Genesis, even though I was a Nintendo kid growing up. Going back and playing old Sega Genesis games and getting that half of those 90s vibes is terrific, and I cannot stress enough how good that console is. Number 6, the Nintendo GameCube. I feel like more than any other console, this console, when it was out, was dogpiled on. However, it has since gotten more love and appreciation now that it deserves. Clearly, you can tell people love the GameCube. It had Mario Kart Double Dash. You had Mario Parties on there. Sunshine is not a bad Mario game, despite what people say. It's just not as good as others. Wind Waker got a bad rap when it first came out, but people have grown to love that, and for a lot of people, it's their favorite Zelda game. Of course, it has Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is arguably one of the greatest fighting games of all time. I like Ultimate a little bit better, but Melee gives me fonder memories. I will say that. Beautiful Joe, F-Zero GX, the last F-Zero game we got was on there. So yeah, I have nothing but high praise for the GameCube, and I think people have finally started to catch on to that, and giving the GameCube its due. Number 5, the Nintendo 64. It has about as good as a 1-2 punch as you can get when it comes to its top 2 games. Super Mario 64, of course, revolutionized 3D platforming, still arguably the best 3D platformer to date. When I first saw that game, I said, graphics will never get better than this. Boy, was I wrong. However, the game was incredibly fun, and I can still pick it up and play it. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, for many, many, many years, was considered the best Zelda game of all time. And some people still hold to that belief. Very good game, very good bosses, puzzles, story development, about as much story as you get in the Nintendo game. It also had GoldenEye 007, which was the ultimate, hey, buy some pizza, have some Mountain Dew, play 4 players on split screen, had a decent campaign. The memories of that game cannot be understated. You could play for hours having fun with friends on that. And that's, in general, makes the N64 so cool, is 4 players. You didn't really have very much of that before, but you could do 4-player Mario Kart 64, which was really fun. You could do 4-player Mario Tennis or Mario Golf. There was Perfect Dark as well, if you wanted another shooter. Plenty of 4-player games. The original Super Smash Bros. Was on that. So yeah, that is one you definitely bust out anytime you have friends over and enjoy it. Number 4 on the list, this will be the only Xbox console that's on here, the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 came hot right out the gate. That came out early in the 7th gen. HD graphics. They had their online infrastructure was amazing. You had Gears of War. You had Halo 3. You had, let's see here. You had great third-party games like Assassin's Creed. You had Darksiders. And Halo 3 definitely was king. Call of Duty was emerging, has a powerhouse. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. You had Modern Warfare 2. You had Black Ops. You had Black Ops 2. That generation was amazing. You would still get like multiple games from the same franchise before development time took too long. And so you were getting like I said, Gears 1, 2, 3. Forza was big. Fable was big. Now you gotta wait so long for each entry into the series for those games. And the 360 was pumping out games left and right. You had the Xbox Arcade. You had indie games. 4-player, you still had split screen involved, online play. It was like the convergence of the great stuff that was in the 90s and the early 2000s and the stuff that was yet to come in the mid to late 2000s, early 2010s, before gaming started having a little bit of issues here and there. Number 3 on my list, the Nintendo Wii. Once again, just like the 360 or the 64, great for 4 players. The motion controls were fun. Wii Sports was amazing. people that never gamed before were picking it up. It had Twilight Princess around launch. You had Mario Galaxy, not one, but two of them. And how often do you get two 3D platformer Mario games on the same console? You had Super Smash Bros. Brawl. You had the new Super Mario Bros. Wii series. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 got ported there. They brought back Mario Party 8. The game had Skyward Sword, which is actually a Zelda I think it's underappreciated. So you had two 3D Zeldas on there. So yeah, I couldn't recommend the Wii more. That's what you're hearing with music right now. You're hearing the Wii Shop channel, which it had an amazing virtual console. More options than the current Nintendo Switch for that. And, that you can buy games a la carte for. So, yeah, very much enjoyed the Wii. Number 2, the Super Nintendo. This is the console that I grew up with. This is the console I swore up and down would always be my favorite. It had games like Super Mario World. It had Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3. It had Earthbound. It had... Think of all the great games that happened on the NES, and then the Super Nintendo made them better. Like, you went from Mega Man to Mega Man X. You went from Castlevania 1, 2, and 3. You went to Super Castlevania 4. So they were iterating on what they did on the NES, but everything was better. There was more colors. There was better graphics. The gameplay was tighter and smoother. It was the pinnacle of 2D. Before things changed with the introduction of 3D. You had great brawlers on there. You had great JRPGs on there. A Link to the Past. You had Super Metroid. The list goes on. I can't say enough good things about the Super Nintendo, guys. If there's any retro console you ever want to pick up, that's the one. So, with that being said, we get to number 1. Dethroning the Super Nintendo. The Nintendo Switch. Absolutely. Not only is it sold like 140 million copies, not only is it the best home console of all time in my opinion, it can also be a handheld, which this list did not include any handhelds. It has all the great Wii U games got ported to it. Some great Wii games got ported to it. You know, games like Super Mario 3D World got ported to it. You got to play the 3D All-Stars collection, which included like Mario Galaxy, Sunshine, and Super Mario 64. It had Mario Odyssey, its own 3D Mario game. You have its Nintendo Online service, where you can play all the great consoles of the past. But even if you strip all the remakes, the remasters away, even Mario Kart 8 being a Wii U game, you strip it all away, strip it all down to just Nintendo exclusives. You got two of the best 3D Zelda games. You got Breath of the Wild. You got Tears of the Kingdom. You have Mario Odyssey, like I said. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, one of my favorite games. And, you have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, of course. And that console probably has, I don't know, somewhere between 4 to 6 of my top 10 all-time games on it. How could it not be number 1? It's literally the best device I've ever had in gaming. And so, I hope you all agree, have checked it out maybe. And if you have, let me know in the comments below. Is Nintendo Switch the greatest console of all time? If not, what is? Thank you for watching the video. Have a good day.